All right, in this short video, we're going to look at early and emergent writing, specifically the section that we looked at in Fountas and Pinnell will be highlighted in this. So first I want to start with what does it mean to be a writer? I want you to open up your PowerPoint and click on the link that I have right here and just watch that quick clip about Oliver Jeffers, who you probably know because of The Day the Crayons Quit and The Day the Crayons Came Home, but he's an author and illustrator of many children's books. So I want you to watch that quick clip, which I can't show you because it is copyrighted material. And I want you to, as you're watching it, think about what is Oliver Jeffers' process and what are the implications for your classroom. So after thinking about what Oliver Jeffers says and watching his process, I think one of the main things that you learned is that the writing process is not linear, that it's very messy and that it's recursive. And we often have a structure set up in our classroom that sort of marches children through a writing process and doesn't take into account that for real writers, it doesn't necessarily happen that way, that we're often drawing and writing at the same time, that it's not necessarily that we're writing and then adding drawings to our writing, that we're collecting ideas throughout our day. I know most of my ideas come when I'm driving or when I'm in the shower or when I'm in the middle of the night. And so we want to make sure that we provide space for thinking and a way for kids to capture their ideas throughout the day and then be able to return to those ideas. So Oliver talked about his notebooks and that he keeps those pieces because maybe he's not going to use that character in this piece, but maybe he'll return and use that character in a different piece that he's constructing. So we want to show our children clips like the one we just saw to help them to see what is it that real writers do? What is it? What are their processes like? And then how can we model and live our life like real writers like Oliver Jeffers? One of the things in early classrooms that we have to support is fine motor skills. So in early childhood classrooms, we want to think about the ways in which we're helping our children increase their fine motor skills, specifically their pincher grasp. So that's between your thumb and your forefinger, which ultimately helps with your pencil grip. And so a child at 3 or 4 years old might be holding a pencil in a fist, which is developmentally appropriate. But then as they age, we really want to help them to be able to hold a pencil using that pincher grasp. And so we need to design activities in our classroom to help with that fine motor skills, such as building letters with blocks or picking up, using the pincher grasp, money and putting it into a bank, or threading pipe cleaners through strainers, as well as lacing. So having children lace, whether it's using pipe cleaners or string and straw, macaroni, or we're using clothespins to help them pinch and match colors, right? So they're also learning their colors and one-to-one correspondence, but really the fine motor skills is what we're targeting. So after reading Fountas and Pinnell, they really focused in on encouraging writing in our early childhood classrooms through bookmaking. And really, so they looked at bookmaking, using materials and space wisely, and then helping students to see themselves and add the identity as writer to their confidence. So when we think about why is bookmaking important, we know it's important because it's child-centered. The children would be the ones coming up with the ideas and creating the books, and then working from a project-based viewpoint where they're really designing and creating a project based on their own ideas. We also want to scaffold children to know and understand that books are a real form of published writing, and just like we saw Amanda conferring with Harold a few weeks ago, that writing books and stories across pages is important. So we want to scaffold them from that one piece of paper, that story on one piece of paper, to telling a story across pages and creating a book over multiple pages rather than a single sheet. Just like real writers, right? You don't often, I don't think, buy a book that is just one page. And so some things to remember with our earliest children is that, and I think with all writers, is that writers write what they're experts in. So Lucy Calkins is not writing a book on mathematics education. She's really focusing in on reading and writing under that literacy umbrella, because that's what she's an expert in. And so children, we have to encourage them that they're experts in themselves, they're experts in their family, they're experts on what they like to do and what they do. And so children really need to choose topics from their own lives. And in the earliest classrooms, the genre is really open-ended. But when we get to mid-kindergarten, end of first grade, even sometimes in the beginning of kindergarten, the genre is really specified in the unit of study that we're investigating and moving through. And so we need to think about the time and space. Are we devoting enough time for kids to be thinking and talking and writing and creating? Are we providing materials and modeling the materials use? So helping children to choose the right paper, helping children to use the stapler if that's what we're going to ask them to do. And we have to make sure we teach them how to do it and model and guide them through using all the materials that we have. We need to teach our students about revision. And you saw Oliver Jeffers and his process. And again, I think leaning on some of our authors, especially now with so many of them having their own websites and videos, it could really help us to help children see revision as key to the writing process and not as a chore. And we want to use these authors and mentor texts as really places for us to learn, for us to investigate what real writers do, and then model our practices after that. So Fountas and Pinnell talked about different genres that we would expose our children to. And so on the left side, you see all of the different genres that you might find in early childhood classrooms, and then the text features on the right. So we make sure that we actually teach them about the author and what the author does and the illustrator, and give them the opportunities to be both of those things. And then we teach them and model for them all of these text features, what they are, how to use them, and hopefully that they would be using these text features within their own writing as well. Same with illustration techniques. So whether it's Eric Carle with his collage technique, we want to give children the opportunities to investigate these different materials and try them out just like real illustrators do. This pre-kinder site, so you can go to this website. It's a clickable link if you're in slideshow. And I thought that they had many ideas for us to incorporate bookmaking into our classrooms. And so just like Oliver Jeffers, Living Like a Writer, we want to help make the process as authentic as possible and help our kids to live like writers in our classrooms. And so like Oliver had all of those many, many little notebooks, we could help with little notebooks with our kids to collect stories from their lives. And we have to make it authentic. It's not something that they are good for 2 weeks and then they get tired of it. It's something that we model and we use. And it doesn't have to just be for a writing workshop, but that I use a notebook, say, for the lists that I need to do and for keeping track of stories that I want to remember or things in my children's lives. And that I might not return to the notebook immediately, but I might return to the notebook in a few weeks or in a couple months. And so these are practices that we want to introduce and sustain within our classroom. I know a couple weeks ago we talked about Georgia Hurd and heart mapping, and so we want to help kids to find stories of their lives to help them with things that they can write about. I saw quite a few different projects that were writing about bookmaking and story making that I thought were great examples of what could happen in your classroom. And then here is some storytelling rocks where children can put together the story, and I think that's really helpful for children that are struggling. And then here are some children in some scaffolded experiences with their teacher. And I think wordless picture books are really, really great for students who might struggle with writing or are ELs or students with special needs. You could use your smartphone or your computer to have children tell the story as they look at the pictures and record it digitally, or you could have them later put words and talk about how different authors in the room would add different words to the story based on their own experiences and perspectives. So this is the end of this video. Hopefully you were able to click on the links while you open the PowerPoint on your own, since it was blocked on YouTube. And the next video is going to talk about interactive writing.